By the end of the decade, there'll be up to 1 million electric cars on Scotland's roads.
We have to do almost 10 times as much in the next 8 years, so a huge job lies ahead.
But is our public charging network still up to the job?
I think it's dead.
Can Norway's biggest pop stars provide that aha moment on how to do it better?
It can change very fast if we choose to change.
On Disclosure, is Scotland ready for the electric car revolution? Laura Young lives in a second-floor flat in Dundee.
Hi, Laura. How you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Where are you parked?
I'm just parked just down here on the right.
OK, not too far away.
No, didn't get a space outside the flat this time, but there's always one somewhere on the road.
Laura's an environmental influencer who's worked on sustainability campaigns with the Scottish Government. With no driveway, it's proving tough to keep her car's battery charged.
In the time that I've had this car, I've lived in a few different properties, and flats, one of the issues with them is you can't have a charging space. You can't plug it in and leave it overnight. So every time I need to charge, I need to intentionally go somewhere to a public space. And I think at the beginning, when I was driving along the streets, you would see another electric car and think, oh, hello, how exciting, another electric car. And now I'm like, oh my goodness, they're my competitor. Like, are they going for the same charging space that I'm going for?
We're visiting one of a network of 2,300 public chargers in Scotland.
I am 100% reliant on public charging places like these ones where they have lots kind of situated, or the ones that you kind of might see individually on their own. 3 years ago when I got the car, it wasn't too much of an issue to find one that was free, but now it's definitely more of a struggle. There's less available because there's more electric cars, putting pressure on them. There's a lot that are broken, and so it's a bit more of a faff.
Do you regret getting the electric car then?
I don't know if I regret it. There's definitely been times where I've thought, do you know, pack this in, I want to get rid of it. Or there's actually been times I've had to, for long journeys, hire a petrol car, and you think, I mean, in those moments you regret it.
Laura's is one of 50,000 electric vehicles, or EVs, in Scotland. They still account for just 2% of all those on the road, but more and more of us are choosing them. It isn't just about a flash new style of driving. Governments say we need EVs to reduce planet-warming emissions that cause storms like this, flooding, and wildfires. By 2030, new petrol and diesel cars will be banned. There'll be up to 1 million EVs on Scotland's roads. They won't need petrol stations, they'll need charge points. Older EVs like Laura's go shorter distances between charges. My longer range one will give me 250 miles. I have a plug at home which charges it in 10 hours. 2/3 of the public network is like these, delivering a slower charge, like at home, or a bit faster. Over here we have a rapid charger. Now, a typical car would sit on this for up to 45 minutes, and 1/3 of the network is like this one. On the private network, superchargers can take as little as 20 minutes for more expensive EVs. Scotland's had a public charging network for more than a decade. It's the largest outside London and has been highly regarded. But how does it fare today? I'm about to put it to the test. The North Coast 500 covers some of Scotland's most dramatic and remote coastline. It's also become one of the top driving routes in the world for electric vehicles.
Hi, Lord Doso. Kevin, I'm really nice.
This man lobbied to electrify the route.
Yeah, I'm charging at the minute. Oh, excellent.
It seemed to me that the way in which people like to enjoy touring in the north days of 100 miles or so on enjoying the scenery, what I've called slow tourism, is perfectly suited to electric vehicles.
Visit Scotland has provided grants to help businesses and groups install charge points on the route.
And how well received has that been by electric vehicle drivers?
Well, I think it's been well received. A great friend of mine came up and travelled up the west coast to the islands and along the top. And he told me that he had difficulty in some places, but in the main, it was perfect for his journey.
I've been driving on the east coast, which is peppered with public chargers. Now I'm cutting 50 miles across country. I still have plenty of battery life, but on this leg, drivers of older EVs might develop range anxiety. That is the fear of getting stuck. There are just 2 chargers in Ullapool. Then it's a 56-mile drive to the next ones in Gairloch. On the way, I drop in to see Fred in Pool U. The North Coast 500 passes in front of his house. Despite his remote location, he's an electric car devotee. And this Tesla is not his first.
Do you like the... Oh, my! No hanging around.
No hanging around.
Do you like the feel of driving an electric car?
Oh yes, it's 99% of the time it's one pedal driving. As soon as you take your foot off the accelerator, it goes into regen and slows right down.
Fred and his wife Moira have solar panels which power their house and their vehicle. They can charge their electric car at home.
There's not that many public chargers in this area. I mean, we rely a lot on our own charging here. But we have had more put in nearby. There's hopefully going to be some in the village in the near future, and that will help, especially with the North Coast 500.
I drive 6 miles to the next public charger in Gairloch. Charles is a tourist who's topping up using an app for the public charging network Charge Place Scotland.
Socket 1, start charge.
What's it saying?
Well, it just says start charge. And I'm pressing that and nothing's happening. I think it's dead.
The app says it works, but it doesn't.
Have you got a plan B?
I hope I do. There's another charge point on the other side of town.
Charles says it's his first problem on the route. We find this charger's been down for months. At the village harbour are the only working chargers in Gairloch today. They're busy with locals and tourists. Most have already tried the community centre. Sarah and Roger are on their second Scottish road trip with their electric car.
How reliable is the network in Scotland?
So this trip, fine. Our previous trip, the app had all sorts of issues, and we were turning up to charges that were offline. The app couldn't start them. The card didn't work. But this time, the app seems to be quite good.
These Dutch tourists are on a family holiday, but they're not finding it easy.
The problem is we really need the fast chargers to travel our distances. And if you then stumble upon a charger that doesn't work, you have to rearrange your planning, so where to sleep, where to go.
Has that happened?
That's happened today.
Actually, yeah. What we were wondering is how is it possible you can tank your gas and pay with any credit card at all? And here you have to, there are all these kinds of different systems, then an app, then a card. Why don't they use one method?
The app says this charger works, but they soon encounter more problems. John's told the payment system isn't working and he needs to use a Charge Place Scotland card, which, as a tourist, he doesn't have. There's no option but to wait for the other charger, so I leave him to it. It's 50 miles to Loch Carron, and after doing 230 miles, I now need to top up. the only option here is leaving it overnight at a slower charger a mile from where I'm staying. The next day, I meet Peter a few miles outside the village. He's recently put in a public charger at this community cafe.
We decided to install the charger because we think it will provide a service and improve the network around the region. The hope is that people would charge while they're in the cafe, but it's really to enhance the network.
But this is another slow charger. An hour on it would only give me 40 miles at a cost of £2.75.
How much use is it being put to?
We've only installed it quite recently, and we've had a few users, but the use has not been huge, to be honest.
These slower chargers allow EV drivers to trickle charge over several hours, but that's less appealing to tourists.
I think it's quite interesting that there was such a broad range of views from the electric vehicle drivers that we spoke to. So the guy driving the Tesla who's completely passionate about it, won't hear a word said against the whole concept, to one person who actually said to us that they were preparing to hand back their electric vehicle and go back to diesel because the distances, the range just wasn't good enough for that part of the world. But, you know, really we need to bring all of these people on board. We need to have a system that works for everybody if it's going to work at all.
The public charging systems run on behalf of the Scottish Government by ChargePlace Scotland. They say the network was up and running 98% of the time in September. This doesn't chime with my experience so far. But what about at one of Scotland's original and busiest charging hubs at Broxton in Perth?
If you need to charge your car quite quickly, they're not really, well, especially the old ones, they just don't work that sometimes, or they have some troubles with connecting. Quite frustrating.
That one is permanently out of order. This one is out of order just now. It's not good enough for so-called electric A9. I mean, it's a misnomer.
None of this sounds like a 2% failure rate. ChargePlace Scotland calculates this by dividing the time a charger's down by 100 million. That's the number of minutes available for charging if every machine was used for every minute of every day. This doesn't reflect the frustrations we've seen, so we've looked at it another way. Over 6 weeks in August and September, we went through every public charger on ChargePlace Scotland's app. When a charger appeared offline or unavailable, we marked it as a fault. We found problems at more than 500 charge points, from broken plugs and screens to the system being offline. That suggests almost a quarter of the Scottish public network was not operating as it should, quite different from the official figures. And fewer than 1 in 10 of the problems we found appeared on the official fault logs. The gap between the official figure and ours was so large we decided to investigate further. We asked councils who own most of the chargers how many had recorded faults in the last year. The worst performing was Scottish Borders, where every single charger had logged a fault. But it wasn't alone. In the Highlands, 96% of chargers had problems. In fact, half of those that responded had faults on most of their chargers. Hi, Minister, how are you doing? I put this and our own data to Scotland's Transport Minister.
Even just speaking to electric vehicle drivers, they'll tell you that it's unreliable. I mean, that is a common theme that we've heard. Is that what you're hearing from drivers? Do they tell you that?
I hear some of it anecdotally, although I think in the round, the data that I have in front of me in terms of my officials, what I've been presented with, would suggest that we, in the main, run a relatively reliable service.
Do you have confidence that actually what you're being told about the network's reliability is accurate?
I do have confidence, but I think I want to interrogate some of what you've told me further with ChargePlace Scotland and with my officials in Transport Scotland to ensure that we are delivering on that expectation in terms of reliability, because I recognise that's key.
Of the faults that we found in our analysis, actually fewer than 10% of them appeared on the ChargePlace Scotland fault logs. So are these faults not actually being logged in the first place?
Well, they should be being logged. Again, I'm keen to interrogate some of this further with Charge Place Scotland. I can't comment on the detail, the 10% you mentioned there, but I'm keen to get a better understanding of that.
We asked Swarco, which runs Charge Place Scotland, if the way they measure reliability truly reflects the scale of issues faced by drivers. They didn't respond. I'm looking for answers in a country that's done it already. Norway is the world leader in EVs. At this filling station, they've actually removed petrol pumps to expand their electric charging, and they're super rapid.
This is the most fast way to do it, and I can go and do some shopping when I do the charging. So it's convenient.
How important is it that you have this super fast network to speed up the charging?
It's super important because of charging speed. Having the time that it takes to charge it down to a minimum is sort of the key thing here to make me choose this.
Norwegians are used to speed. There are 3,000 rapid chargers here, one for every 30 miles of road. That's 10 times more than in Scotland. They're part of an overall network of more than 17,000 chargers. Norway began extending its network using public and private funding 17 years ago. This academic was involved in that project and says since then, EV ownership has exploded.
The last 6 months, meaning 2022, 78% of all sold cars are pure electric. So pretty soon there will be 100%, and from 2025, the government has announced they will ban the sales of all petrol and diesel cars.
In Scotland, we've got about the same number of publicly owned chargers as you've got just in Oslo. How much does that need to change?
It needs to be speeded up because if you don't have a good charging infrastructure, people will get very frustrated. And you also have to develop systems where people can charge from home. Much more than they do today. In Norway, this is possible more or less everywhere.
Norway has been on this journey for decades longer than most. EV drivers have enjoyed cut-price parking, ferries and tax exemptions. But this didn't come out of nowhere. It happened because of an unlikely collaboration between Professor Rostvik, this leading environmental activist, and the 1980s superstar pop group a-ha. Frustrated by the lack of enthusiasm for EV technology, they imported Norway's first electric car in 1989. It was a Fiat Panda.
Oh, did we do that as well?
Today, we've reunited them to recreate that photo with a modern-day electric Fiat.
Like that, yeah. So big smiles all round.
They used their original car to rack up fines by skipping toll booths and driving in bus lanes. The car was impounded and then bought back by supporters 12 times. It worked. The Norwegian government created the best electric vehicle incentives in the world. a-ha's lead singer, Morten Harket, attracted a lot of attention for the stunt.
Did you feel like you were a rebel?
I don't really think I thought of myself as a rebel. But then again, I wasn't. I didn't feel I was entering into the role of a rebel, really. I realized that that's what it was, but it was just necessary. It was what we needed to do, and it just made every sense, you know.
While a-ha brought the star quality, for all four, this was a serious campaign.
The car was a symbolic thing, right? So, because there was only 2 seats and you guys drove it, and obviously with Morten there, it created also press. You know, it became visible. So it wasn't about necessarily embarrassing the government. It was more about getting focus on this as a potential future game changer.
But it went 45 kilometers, so it was not...
It was early days. And then had to charge for 48 hours, right?
So you then collectively imported the first one into Norway. What was that like, receiving that and actually having that on Norway's roads?
Well, the government tried to put all kinds of different attempts at taxing it, which we refused because it was just rubbish. It was a diesel tax.
It took a year to pave the road and with this little Fiat Panda for the regulations in Norway.
And you broke the rules along that way quite deliberately.
From then on, yes.
You wanted to embarrass the government, did you?
Yes.
Yeah, we had to. We had to change the regulations in order to invite this type of thing to have a chance of happening at all.
Before we did this with importing the electric car together, it was only problems, focusing at the problems. This was one of the first topics where we focused at the solution.
That little car paved way for free parking in the city for electric cars with charging stations, no paying of the toll booth, driving in the taxi lane.
Norway now is a very different place. There are electric vehicles on every street, chargers on every corner. For this country, a future with fully electric transport is in sight. But it's still not quite there yet.
Why do you feel it is so important that what you started 33 years ago is continued?
But it's interesting how now, 33 years later, we are the grown-ups. And we have kids, all of us. And we have a responsibility to our own families and to our own nation and to the global community.
Our hands are black from the oil that we got rid of, and I think we carry a certain responsibility in being in front and leading the way for that reason.
Morten, how optimistic are you about the future?
I am with the thought that the world only looks the way it does today because we keep it that way. Because the upkeep of how we do things, how we go about things. It can change very fast if we choose to change.
12 years ago, Norway's charging network was already ahead of where Scotland's is today. There's little doubt Norway will meet its target of banning new fossil fuel cars in a couple of years. In many ways, they've already moved on to their next climate challenge, electrifying the rest of their transport infrastructure.
Well, it feels like we've a lot to take away from this visit. Norway now is what Scotland needs to look like in 5 years' time, and it actually feels like a very different place. There are many more electric vehicles on the road, there's much more charging infrastructure in place, and even this ferry that we're on is powered by electricity. Scotland feels like it's got quite a long way to go.
In UK terms, Scotland, like Norway, was an early adopter, creating its own network of charge points. In both countries, that approach relied on public money. Norway used private investment to speed up the rollout. The Scottish government wants to do that too, but there are barriers. Gary McRae's helping councils like Dundee prepare for the next phase.
On the whole, the network's pretty good, but I think what's the challenge has been with free tariffs or low tariffs. They weren't generating enough money to pay for the maintenance, pay for the upkeep. Some of the equipment's been in the ground for now 9 or 10 years, so we're now getting to the point where it might need replaced. So really the biggest challenge is moving forward to a tariff that makes the network sustainable and generates enough money to fix things when there is an issue or replace equipment when it becomes toward the end of its life.
How big a job is it that lies ahead?
I think it's a huge job. I think it's taken us 10 years or so to get to where we are now. I think we have to do almost 10 times as much in the next 8 years.
The Scottish strategy is to bring in private investors. Fastned is hoping to build super fast charging hubs like we saw in Norway. Tom Hurst, who runs the UK operation, believes people are prepared to pay more for reliability.
You see here the solar canopy, which is keeping us dry as we're talking. They're nice and visible. The charges are numerous, they're reliable, and customer service is 24/7. And that whole picture is what we bring to consumers and EV drivers in Scotland, and enables us to compete with, let's say, the lower cost existing sort of network here in Scotland.
Obviously, in some parts of Scotland, the charging is free. How difficult is it to compete with that?
Free charging is, when it's subsidised like that, has a bit of a distortion in the market. It does feel a little bit unfair, but this was a policy direction taken to help drive the uptake, the early uptake of EVs in Scotland. And it's had the desired effect. And the question now is, how do you make that flip from that sort of public funded infrastructure to a more mixed or private focused delivery model?
Nearly half of councils offer free charging. It's a legacy from an old Scottish government incentive to encourage more petrol and diesel drivers to switch. But is it now holding back progress? We asked councils how much electricity they're giving away. Over the last 18 months, that's added up to nearly £2.8 million. That's money going from Scottish councils straight into the batteries of privately owned electric vehicles. Great news if you're the EV driver, but it's leaving little to reinvest into the network. And there are unintended consequences. Perth and Kinross is one of those councils which doesn't charge. At Broxton, Tesla has installed a dozen superfast chargers which their drivers have to pay to use. Instead, many are using the free ones.
There had been a fight a few Saturday mornings ago, early on, about 6:30. One guy was showing a lot of frustration at another because he'd parked a Tesla overnight, and there's good Tesla provision just behind us here. I wouldn't mind paying. I don't think anybody should get for free. You don't get free fuel, and someone's paying for that power somewhere, so I've got no problem paying. But it is an attraction for a lot of people.
I don't think that policy was the wrong policy at that moment in time. It was a policy we introduced to facilitate that modal shift, to get people moving to EVs, and it worked, which is why Scotland is far ahead of other parts of the UK, of course.
But your policy has skewed the market. That's what investors are saying. So do you not now need to intervene to say we need to change that policy? All councils, maybe as a condition of some of the grant funding, need to stop that free charging?
Well, I'm not going to rule it out at this moment in time, but equally, of course, the draft strategy has not yet been finalised. It will be finalised next year, and I'm really keen to speak to local authority partners, as you've mentioned, in more detail in the coming months to ensure that we have this right.
For Laura Young, her commitment to the environment is being strongly tested. The problems she's increasingly encountering have led her to ask some serious questions.
3 years ago, I was a massive advocate for this car. I mean, it is a good car. It is good. I love driving it. But now there are just so many issues that a lot of my friends and family just think, oh man, seeing the struggle that you've had with it kind of puts us off. We want to wait a bit longer for the infrastructure to get better. It makes me really hesitant to recommend it to some types of people who might be in a similar situation to me.
Fossil fuels are heating up our planet, and we absolutely cannot afford to continue driving cars that are powered by petrol or diesel. A creaking infrastructure will only damage the confidence of people who are considering making that switch, a switch that's so important for all of us.